Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Janitorial Exchange podcast. Today I've got a pretty interesting guest. I jumped on a Zoom call with Alex Guttman, who is the owner of Ace Janitorial out of Brooklyn, New York, and we are going to be discussing how clean are hospitals. His company is leading in technology, which I never would have thought of, technology for janitorial equipment, and we are going to get into it right now through Zoom.
So, if you're sitting there as a patient and you're, taking your meds and doing whatever you're doing and surgery went well, there's a chance you may die, not because the nurse is not doing the job or the doctor's not doing the job, but because the room's not being cleaned properly. And by the way, if the nurse is not doing the job or the doctor's not doing the job, that usually means they're not washing their hands before they come in, or they're not following proper protocols to protect the patient from those germs that we're worried about. So that's, the challenge, that it's not making money, the EPS department, because they're not billing. So, they were always the stepchild until COVID hit. And when COVID hit, all of a sudden EPS became the department of choice because doctors and nurses realized that they were the wall between them getting sick, the doctors and nurses, and the patients getting sick because no one knew what COVID, how COVID was being transmitted. And then, post COVID, things sort of went back to a little bit where they were before. It's sort of like this middle ground. People understand the importance of EVS, but at the same time, budgets, cuts. We need to figure out a way to do this more efficiently and to get the job done in a more less costly manner because everyone's trying to save money because healthcare is going down a dark path the next couple of years. From what I'm hearing from my customers, budgets are being cut drastically. Hospitals are losing money. A lot of small hospitals are going to be closing down. What the reasons are, what the political reasons are, who knows? What the reality is, what the cause of that is. It could be related to COVID money trickling out. It could be Medicaid, Medicare being, under new rules and regulations. But whatever it is, hospitals are definitely starting to feel it and preparing for the tough times to come. So, to answer your question, yeah, it's a major problem. And what's crazy about the disinfecting world is that just when you defeat an enemy, just when you think you got the enemy that's going to kill you, a new enemy pops up. It's called mutations, and it's also new diseases coming in from overseas. You have people coming into the country, you're bringing things with them. So Ebola, measles, and all these things. Plus, people are not taking vaccines anymore. And again, I don't want to get to the politics of vaccines, but
Yeah, that's a mess.
reality, that's a whole nother mess.
Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation with yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the reality is that, without the vaccine, the disease will pop up. And whether you believe in immunity, that you need to create immunity with enough people getting a disease or not, when those diseases do pop up, a lot of them get very sick, and then you're introducing a new organism into a hospital that was never there before. So you have some real challenges in hospitals today with bacteria and viruses. Some exciting technology is evolving as a result of COVID and post-COVID. The techniques and the ways that we tackle a lot of these bacteria and viruses are probably more innovative than ever before in history. With AI and robotics being involved, that's coming into healthcare. So you're able to have robots cleaning floors where people used to do that, and what that means, that frees up people to do more disinfecting or more project cleaning in order to protect the patient. So there's a lot of innovation coming. The greatest innovation that I've seen recently is a company came out with a spray that can spray on the surface, and it actually makes one of the most dangerous organisms that we're dealing with in a hospital. One of the most dangerous bacteria is called C. diff. And C. diff is one of those bacteria, like Candida auris, where it's drug resistant. I mean, if you get it, there's not much we can do to treat you. There are some new treatments that they are doing, but it's still not. A lot of people die from C. diff because it's really not a way to of treating it. And so this spray, you spray on the surface, you put on the glasses, you put a flashlight on the surface, and for the first time, we can actually see C. diff.
I saw the video. It Watching the video, it reminded me. I was a cop for 10 years, so it reminded me of the luminol, whatever it's called.
Luminol, yeah, yeah,
That shows the blood in a room, and then you put the blue
right,
light, and it lights up
right,
the room if there was blood anywhere.
right.
And watching the video, it's kind of the same concept that you spray, and then you put, what is it, like an orange ultraviolet light or something like, or what?
Ultraviolet orange, it pops up. Yeah, yeah.
And you can see where it just smeared. They didn't completely clean it like it should be. I mean, how long has this product been out, or is it just getting rolled out, or?
It's just getting rolled out for the first time. It's in its current form. It has been many years of development. And what we did is we partnered with this company with our software program. So what we're doing is we're taking the technology of the detecting the bacterial virus. That's all great, to be able to see it. But now what do you do with it? It's like, well,
Hospital's
I
going to go
rented my
make people go
car.
back and clean the rooms now, or who's going to be able to get that product and be like, hey, before I walk into this room, I'm spraying, and I want to
Right,
see how
right,
clean it
right.
is. Who's going
Right.
to
I have
actually
the
do this?
knowledge. Now what do I do with it?
Yeah,
Exactly. So that's what we can is we have programs that are designed to deal with how to handle the bacteria. So in other words, you would basically have a program that comes on your phone or your iPad that would basically tell you to spray the chemical on the surface, put on the goggles, wait for it to dry, 3 or 4 minutes. That's when you actually see the bacteria. And then it'll tell you if you see it, take a picture of it. And your phone or your iPad will take a picture of it. We have a little slide that goes over the iPad that would actually identify uh, bacteria. By the way, the company that makes this technology is called Live. And what you would then do is it will give you a bunch of tasks to get rid of the C. diff. And you would then check off on your iPad those tasks. And then you would remove the C. diff as you're checking off the tasks. And then you take a picture again of the surface cleaned. And all this would be documented and logged in your dashboard. That's what we did. We designed the software for this. And what's great about the whole technology for the EVS guy is not necessarily, okay, we see the bacteria, that's great. But now we can teach them how to go back and clean and focus on those areas. That's really the key, because they did a terminal clean. They cleaned that room, but why is the bacteria still there? They missed something or they didn't do something properly. And so
right.
this is the ability to train them and to retrain to make sure that they get those areas and spots. And so that way the patient gets in there is not going to get sick.
Are you seeing a good reception with this new product that you guys are rolling out, or is it like, kind of like, I don't know if I want to spend X amount of dollars to, I think our guys do a good enough job kind of thing?
Yeah, so it's interesting because you can basically divide the industry into three parts. You have the guys who are innovative and they love innovation and they're looking for any way possible to save time, make things more efficient, and of course the safety of the patient. You have a lot of people out there. I'm thinking in my head, just a handful of people that I deal with on a regular basis that are really good leaders. They really do think about the patient, and cost comes second, because they think, well, let me put it this way: price comes second. Cost is, of course, built into the whole concept. How am I going to save money? Because one infection that happens in a hospital can cost a hospital thousands and thousands of dollars per patient. It comes out of their pocket. If you can reduce 10, 20, 30% of the infection rates in the hospital, you're saving an incredible amount of money, incredible amount of employees they can hire that way. So, you have to think outside the box. You can't think price. But you have
But it's easy for
second
us
hand,
to say that. But are the hospitals
right?
really thinking? The CEOs and the boards going, well, That's going to
Well,
cut.
it's funny, but the CEOs, you're right and wrong at the same time, because the CEOs of the hospital are thinking costs. They're thinking, you know, we got a $1 billion budget. We got to save $100 million. They don't, they instinctually will say, okay, maybe if I get, paper towels that are 10% cheaper, or if I get sutures that are 10% cheaper, that's going to bring me my, $100 million. But the reality is, expenditures is a very small part of a hospital's budget. 10, 20% of a budget is supplies. The big chunk of the budget is salaries. And so if you're going to look to save, you want to save on people. And now you don't want to lay them off, but if you're going to hire, if you have a role of 100 people that you want to hire, but you can take within your hospital, and instead of laying people off, have them fill those jobs. And now the jobs that they were filling can be done with the rest of the hospital, then you just save yourself your $100 million. And that's really what the technology of EBS today, what we're trying to do is not say, hey, we're going to save you 10% of your paper towels, but why not 10% off your labor budget? Instead of hiring, 10 more people or paying overtime and then having to lay people off, save that labor and, make it more efficient so that you don't have to go back and clean a room and have C. diff. That's labor. You don't have to go ahead and spend more time cleaning a room with C. diff, because now you know where to focus. So all these things will save you time. And there's other technologies that we're introducing that can really be efficient in saving time. But going back to your original question, so there's a second guy. The second guy is, who else is doing it? Or where's the evidence? They'll sit on something for 6 months or a year and try to figure out how to find something wrong with the technology, rather than jumping into the water and saying, okay, let's see what it does. They're going to be super cautious, and they'll spend, by the time they're figuring out whether they're going to go with it or not, the number one guy who's open to innovation is already on year 2, seeing the results. So sometimes you gotta, jump into the water, especially when you're dealing with lives that are being at risk. And we're not dealing with something that can affect the patient negatively. It's something that may just help your job clean more efficiently. So it's not like I'm going to give a medication that may not work or not. This is something very simple on a mechanical side. But you have those people who are super cautious. I think they're afraid of change, afraid of innovation. They're the guy who's going to buy, the new cell phone that comes out, the new model. They'll be the last guy to buy it because they want to make sure all the kinks are out of it. There's an argument to be made on that, but I'm usually the guy who wants to jump in right away and say, okay, I'll deal with the kinks, but I'll be the most innovative on the block.
Right.
Meanwhile, you have the third guy who's afraid of change at all. He doesn't even, what, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. I'm very happy with the way things are. My job is secure. I'm not going to shake anything up. And those are the worst leaders, because
they're not leaders.
They are always behind. Yeah.
They're just not leaders. I mean,
they're not leaders.
Penny pinchers, and they're not there for,
Yeah. And I've seen that, believe it or not, I've seen number 3 in what we would consider the best hospitals in the country. And I've seen number 1s in what we consider, not such great hospitals in the country. And I've seen, leaders in the top hospitals countries that are also number 1s, that are really innovative. And so it's mixed in the healthcare system across the country. It all depends on your luck, who the hospital has as the leader. I think that should be, by the way, something. If a hospital is looking to save money, they need to get leaders that are number 1s. They need to get people that are going to think outside the box. They need the Tesla leaders, the Elon Musks, that are willing to jump into the unknown in order to find solutions that are going to reinvent the way healthcare is being done. Because it just repeat the same thing over again. You're still at the same place. We need to save on cost, and we need to create increase efficiency. We need to save lives. We need to make our healthcare system more antibacterial when it comes to people coming into hospitals for surgery. We want to make sure they come back safe. I have 3 relatives, grandparents, in-laws that died of C. diff. And I guarantee you, if you going to the general population to find out relatives that died in hospitals, 99% of the time it's a bacteria that they acquired in the hospital. So,
And I think that's what people are afraid of. I mean,
yeah,
I'm definitely afraid of ever having to go in that hospital. I hate going to the hospital.
yeah,
I hate going to the
yeah,
doctor, period. But I mean, I get my
right,
yearly checkup. But the last thing I want to ever have to do is have to stay in the hospital for more than a few hours of whatever procedure I might be having. And even then, that makes me
right,
nervous, is having a
right.
procedure done, because then it's like, oh, well, I got to stay because I got an infection of blah, blah, blah. Well, how the hell did you get an infection? All you were doing was getting knee replacement surgery, or
For
you know,
colonoscopy.
or an ACL, or some kind
Yeah,
of
right.
repair, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I got an infection. I'm like, well, how the hell did you get an infection?
100%. It's a real serious problem. Colonoscopy. You're going for a colonoscopy today. I go to EPEC meetings and infection control meetings, and there's problems sterilizing that equipment. Is going up your rear. So that's the worst part of your body. So.
Yeah, yeah.
By the way, what are the treatments of C. diff? Believe it or not, is taking feces out of a healthy person's body and putting it into an unhealthy person's body.
What?
Isn't that crazy? That's one of the treatments. But they found that a healthy person has the right bacteria, the friendly bacteria, or the proper immune system to fight off the C. diff. C. diff is found in feces. Believe it or not, that's where C. diff comes from, is feces. So a person who has an unhealthy uh, immune system, or his digestion system is messed up from antibiotics, can't fight off the C. diff. So what they actually
So
do, a transplant of feces into the healthy person in order to introduce the proper immunity. Yeah.
I know you're not a doctor or anything like that, but I mean, you work in this field. But so I mean, is this basically then from people not washing their hands after going to the
Yeah.
bathroom? Like they like just touch stuff
Yeah.
in
It's
wherever the
amazing.
room or whatever?
Yeah, it's amazing. The simplest things, washing your hands is just the simplest thing. And what happens also is people are in a rush. They need to rush in to take care of the patient. So the easy way, and what was introduced many years ago, is the hand sanitizer. Now, the word sanitizer is by definition a lower level disinfectant than a antimicrobial. So, for example, C. diff doesn't get killed by a hand sanitizer. The sanitizer doesn't kill C. diff. Only certain things will kill C. diff, bleach being one of them. We have a product called HOCl, hypochlorous acid, which kills it. And a lot of things that do kill C. diff are not necessarily safe for the environment or safe for the people that use. But hand sanitizer, when you're running into if you go to the bathroom and you have C. diff on your hands, you're using hand sanitizer, you're playing Russian roulette if you actually do anything to kill that C. diff. Now you're touching the patient, the ID lines, you're putting on gloves, of course, but the gloves are now contaminated. So hands is one of the number one things that nursing, infection control nursing, the IP specialists in a hospital are looking for improvement. And there's technology that's being introduced now that we get involved with, that other companies get involved with. For example, we can track the people going in and out of the room if they pump their hand sanitizer. So if, let's say, 1,000 people go into your room that day, we can tell you, well, 900 people did not wash their hands properly, sanitizer. So we can give that data to the hospital. So again, they can improve. We also recommend hand washing with soap and water. If you do soap and water, that's going to get rid of everything. Because the number one way getting rid of bacteria and viruses is cleaning, because the dirt is where the bacteria is. If you remove the soil load, then there's no bacteria virus left behind. So yeah, I mean that's a real problem in healthcare. Hand washing. Uh, I know I would have relatives in the hospital. I would always make sure the nurse and doctor would wash their hands and change the gloves. Those are things that I was always trained with in the hospital to work with. I was surprised that top surgeons, top doctors did not change their hand gloves enough, or did not wash their hands in between rooms. So that's really a problem. You got patients and family of patients have to be on top of these doctors and nurses, not be shy and say, excuse me, my mother, my father, my brother, without you washing your hands or changing their gloves. It's just It's a must.
It's funny you said that because I'm going back to my last couple doctor visits that I just had recently, and it seems like every time they go from room to room, there's that and sanitizer, and that's all they use is the hand sanitizer, and then they come in your room doing this, and they've never washed their hands other than the hand sanitizer.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting blood, at a hospital, for my annual checkup. The nurse, the blood drawer, washes her hands, takes a pair of gloves, puts on the gloves, and then scratches her eyebrow, and then is ready to put the line in my arm. I go, excuse me, can you change your glove? He goes, why? What's wrong? I said, you just touched your eyebrow, rubbed your eyebrows, your eyes, and you're putting a line in. What you just the glove is now infected. I don't know what you have or don't have. Give me like a grunt, and change the glove.
Oh yeah, because
But
they get offended, like, oh, we got one
yeah,
of
oh
those.
yeah, at least this person knows better than I do. And, but I
Yeah,
don't want to, get sick, just from taking out blood. I don't know what's going on, with the other person. Who knows? They may have a cold, and maybe, COVID or something. I don't want to
right.
get sick from. So yeah, I mean, this is it's a challenge in healthcare, and no matter how safe you're going to try to be, or how careful you're going to try to be, you're never going to be 100%. But all you can do is, put up as many barriers as possible, and hopefully, that will be enough for you or for your relative. So that's why technology with, identifying C. diff, all different other kinds of devices and
Okay.
chemicals is that's being invented and created and simplified for healthcare is really exciting. This is an exciting era, exciting time to live because of all the innovation that's coming out.
I think COVID, and you know this better than I do. I think COVID probably really, like you were saying before, really made it boom. Like we need to make sure that the hospitals are way cleaner and better than they ever have been because people were dying in the hospitals and they got this infection that COVID just spread everywhere. And, so I got the feeling that that probably did help traject
Yeah, it
your
did. It
business
was funny.
even
COVID
higher.
dropped during COVID. During COVID, C. diff dropped. There was no C. diff cases dropped like 90% because people were so careful. That's my theory. People were so careful with cleaning their hands and washing surfaces because they were so scared of COVID that
Couldn't
and
even get
people.
Lysol.
Yeah, exactly,
Lysol was
exactly.
sold out. I mean, their stock probably went through the roof.
Oh, it was a crazy time. Well, here's an interesting thing. So I make a product, pretty revolutionary product that we manufacture. We make a generator that we plug into a hospital. It goes into a closet where you have a drain and you have a water source coming in. And it does is converts water and salt into a product called HOCl, hypochlorous acid. It's a hydrogen, oxygen, and a chlorine. And it's a full-fledged EPA approved sporicide. So it kills C. diff, kills Candida auris. It's basically covers the worst guys in the industry. Technology that we brought in, it was one of these no one ever heard of before technologies. And again, the number ones that I was talking about, those people that are willing to do testing and expand the horizon, brought these
Yeah.
machines in. And they were making this by hundreds of gallons a day, filling up their tubs, making wipes out of it, mopping the floors. This stuff, if you drink it, if you spray it in your eyes, it's actually harmless. In fact, your blood makes HOCl when it fights off bacteria and viruses. Your white blood cells actually produce it in your body. So it's really a non-toxic. It's really innovative. But what was funny, and the reason why I'm bringing this up, is during COVID, uh, there was no more disinfectants. People couldn't get bleach. There were like limits on supplies that a hospital could get. And the hospitals that had the HLCL generator were cruising. They were like making this stuff, mopping it. So here's the funny story. So I was in ground zero for COVID, one of the hospitals. I don't want to mention the hospital's name, but a small, medium-sized hospital. And they had the first patient, COVID. You're probably gonna figure out what hospital it is. But anyway, so uh, I come in and the HOCL is on the EPA emerging virus list, meaning that there's a new person that comes out, it's approved to kill it. That's the nature of HOCL. And so I'm coming into this hospital, meeting with, and I was, remember, the highways were empty, the streets were empty at this early stage. They had closed down everything. The only people who would service in the healthcare industry were allowed in. Very depressing time. Bodies were going by every minute, from the morgue. It was really a scary time. But I was not exactly excited to go visit a hospital either during, COVID, especially the early days when we didn't know how things
The last place you wanted to be was at a hospital during COVID, because now you
exactly.
keep on hearing everybody's on these lung machines and they're dying. Like, I ain't
Exactly
going.
right.
I don't care. I'm not going. I'll die at
Exactly.
home.
Exactly. And it's funny because I think it was Time magazine or one of these magazines actually had a whole, article about this hospital, the doctors and the nurses. Actually, one of the doctors, I think, who had treated the first patient of COVID, he himself died of COVID. It was a really crazy time. But I get into the hospital and this department, the EDS department's in the basement. Most of the time, by the way, that's where the housekeeping department is. It's in the basement. So I come down the stairs and I walk down the basement and I see a line of people that goes all the way down the basement. Must have been 100, 150 people in it. They're all dressed up in scrubs, wearing face masks and everything. And the director of housekeeping of EDS was an older lady, who, older lady, and I stopped walking towards her office, and just this line of people. What's going on? Why is everyone lined up by EDS? And this sort of ties into what we discussed in the beginning, how EDS became so important for COVID. And I see this lady all dressed up in a white scrubs, and a face mask, and a plastic shield, and everything. And she's holding a electronic sprayer, almost like using a gardening sprayer or exterminator, and she's spraying down doctors and nurses with the HOCL that
You're kidding.
we had. And they were all lined up because they're all ready to go home, I guess, and they wanted to get sprayed because at that time no one knew. It was really during the early days of COVID. No one knew how it was transmitted. No one knew it was on the clothing or, if they were going to go home and bring it home to their family. And so she was spraying everyone down with the HOCL. I go, and I won't say her name. I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "One wants to, be safe. They want to," and this is the level of disinfecting that was going on at that time. And what's funny is only a couple of months later, I was reading an article that in China and in Asia, they actually have the HOCL diluted and mixed up. I think it's 250 parts per million, and the hospitals are using 500 to 1,000 parts per million. And they actually have these sprayers outside these buildings. When people go in and out of the buildings, there's a mist of HOCL that lands on the people. This woman was brilliant. She figured out what they were doing in Asia here in a hospital system. So it's funny, and that's really what happened during COVID. That's why so many of these other things we're dealing with now didn't exist. Now, COVID's gone, or not dangerous, so now people, like, get a little
Going
more
back to old
relaxed.
bad habits.
Go to the
Just
habits,
not
exactly.
caring, not cleaning like they used to. And that makes a lot of
Right,
sense. I mean, I know it's your own hypothesis thinking of like, hey, this is why it happened because not everybody cared about cleaning everything. Now nobody gives a shit. It's like, it's
right,
gone. But
exactly right,
because at the same time, when you think about it, where did the flu go? I mean, not that
right,
we're doctors or anything, but all of a sudden COVID was the number one thing, and you didn't need to get a flu shot anymore. It
right,
just
right.
disappeared during COVID. There is no more flu.
Also, people were not in contact with each other, right? People were isolated. If you were in the streets, people would go to malls. So of course, the normal transmission that you would have no longer existed. Flu may not be as easily transmitted, but if you have a million people in a mall, it's gonna, it may.
Yeah.
But it's
But if you stood 6 feet apart, you were good.
miraculously. You spit on the stickers, on the floor, then you were good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
if you
crazy
stand on the
time.
sticker, you're 6 feet away. You're good. Don't worry about
Magical
nothing. You're
stickers.
you're perfectly good.
It was crazy times. It was really crazy times. It was really strange. It was a twilight zone. I remember walking on the floors and all you heard was beep, beep, and all that, room after room with like 4 or 5 people piled into a room, and they were all hooked up to the life support, those breathing
Yeah.
that they were vented. It was really spooky. It was completely quiet. There were no visitors. There was no doctors and nurses were like, rushing back and forth real quietly. It was almost like a Twilight. It was almost like these science fiction movies. Into the future when there's just bodies lying around everywhere. It's really spooky.
That's
It's crazy
crazy.
times. Yeah,
Especially with, no, go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, you go ahead.
It's just funny how, I mean, being that you see this stuff and nobody would think like, he owns a janitor company. No, he works in the hospital. Like this is his business. Like he's in and out of hospitals every day.
Yeah.
So how receptive has everything been for you? Like on, because you do most of your business on the East Coast, but now you're moving more towards all around the
No,
country, it sounds like.
I'm all over the country. I go from East Coast to West Coast. We have around 1,800 hospitals that we service, that we currently
Oh, okay.
supply around the country. So yeah, we've come a long way over the past couple of years. And I travel from here. I go to the West Coast. I have a sales team there, and I'm on the. I visit them once a month. Uh, so I'm there, California once a month. But I'm also the rest of the country down south a lot of Florida, Nashville, even Colorado we have, um, all over the place. So I get to see a little bit of one side of the country versus the other in different hospitals and different areas and stuff. And it's interesting. It's open up your eyes to um, how the healthcare systems are the same and different at the same time in many different places of the world.
I wonder how
Okay.
the Midwest stands up to the East and West Coast.
But it's interesting because the big cities are all the same. You go to LA, you go to Chicago, you go to New York City, you go to Miami. They all have a common energy. So when you go into like even Nashville is a big healthcare market, but it's different. Nashville, it's much more. Uh, it's bigger in a way, and like I've gone to hospitals in New York City, that are 1,000 beds, and you can tell it's 1,000 beds. And then you go into a 500-bed hospital in Nashville, or you go into somewhere down south, uh, somewhere in the boondocks. It can be a 1,000-bed hospital, but it looks like a 100-bed hospital, the way it's designed. So and sometimes a 100-bed hospital looks like a 1,000-bed hospital.
Yeah.
So it goes the other way around too. So it's interesting. The technology you have in the big cities like Chicago and New York, of course, is state of the art. You're not going to see that in some of the smaller cities around the country, especially with the innovative technologies that they have out there. Um, but some of the hospitals seem cleaner, maybe because maybe the environment is less traffic, or maybe I'm trying to figure out sometimes why some hospitals at least get the appearance or the air of being cleaner than some of these big hospitals that we run into.
Well, because the first hospital that comes into my mind, like I'm wondering how clean this hospital is, which would be here in Chicago, would be the Cook County Hospital, which is open to everybody, whether you got money
Right.
or not, and it's a public type hospital. And in my mind, I'm just like, I don't know how clean that hospital would be, and not to disparage the hospital or anything like that, but it just has that perception of that how clean can that hospital be because they have like all kinds of walks of life versus if you go to Northwestern,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in a better area
That,
or whatever, or it's downtown Chicago kind of thing,
that's a
so it's
major. Yeah, that's a major. And by the way, one of the things that hospitals look at, which they hold incredibly valuable to their reimbursements and also to their ego and to their status, is the HCAP scores, which is basically the Press-Ganey scores, which is the feedback that a hospital will get from the patient 30 days later. They'll get a survey, and you may get an email or something in writing. And that, believe it or not, is extremely important for the hospital. Like you fly a plane, Delta, and they'll give you a survey. Yeah, it's a hotel, give you a survey. Yeah, it's important. They want to know how you feel. But the survey that you get can make a difference how much the hospital gets reimbursed from the insurance companies, Medicaid and Medicare. If those scores are not good, they get screwed royally. And so, you know, one of the challenges you have, exactly what you talked about, a county hospital may be an old building, hasn't been, renovated in 20 years. You have all walks of life walking in there, and, every disease you can imagine, from poverty to legal immigrants, illegal immigrants, new diseases, old diseases, the homeless, alcoholics, and so someone goes in there and has a terrible impression, not necessarily because it's dirty, the hospital, not necessarily that it's something wrong with it, just the visual that comes across. And that's why hospitals are really working hard and changing the visual part of your experience. If you walk through a public restroom on the lobby and it's urine all over the floor, you're not going to think highly of that hospital. You're not going to want to go into surgery.
No. Oh, God, no. Just even the thought of that. I mean, this.
But meanwhile, you have a county hospital. The homeless guy takes a shower in the sink in the public restroom in the lobby,
Yeah.
right? And the rest of the hospital could be clean, but the guy just showered in the lobby.
Yeah.
But that's the reality that they're dealing with. But it's my father many years ago, top hospital in New York. He had open heart surgery. He pulls me up. He says to me, he says, "Is it dying?" I go, "Well, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Get up here. I got to show this to you." And I came up. He was in ICU, and he puts his hand on the floor. He comes up with a white powder. I go, "Look at this. The whole floor is covered with white powder." I said, "That's bleach residual. They're bleaching everything around you. And that's the bleach residual. It's not dirty. It's them doing their job and allowing the disinfectant to dwell and kill so that you could be safe." But his perception was it was dirty.
It's dirty.
Right? But now that hospital actually is using my HOCL, so they don't have that problem anymore.
Good plug. Good plug.
but that that is it's really valuable and dangerous for a hospital, because if you give off the wrong image, if you give off the wrong service, a nurse had a bad day, and that patient now is being mistreated or not being treated properly, that's going to come across in your scores.
So with the products that you have, how big are, and only because I'm in Chicago, so I'm curious, like how big are your products in the hospital market in the Chicagoland area? I mean, are they using someone else, which has got kind of the same stuff that you have, or is it you guys only have this product and they can only get it from you, but they haven't decided to jump on board yet, or they haven't heard about it yet? I don't know.
Yeah, so we're an innovative company. We like to think of ourselves as a Tesla. So we don't focus in on the commodities. In my industry, the commodity pushers, the paper towel guys, toilet tissue guys, they're buying each other out by the lot. They're becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So they're becoming like the Walmarts and the Targets of the industry. There's no more mom and pop, or very few mom and pop. Guys, I remember years ago there were hundreds, thousands. We used to go to shows. The shows were humongous because they used to hold so many different manufacturers, distributors. Today, they're all gone and they're all being swallowed up by the big companies. What I did and what we did as a company is we became a very unique, focused company. So the things that we talked about, so this generator, we manufacture it. Our chemistry, we design it and put it together and manufacture it. We have very unique chemistries that save hospitals cleaning the floors on a regular basis. They can now do it less often. They can not clean, but necessarily remove the coatings that they put down. Our coatings, also the hand sanitizer that we're talking about, is very corrosive, so it eats up a lot of the floor finishes and coatings that then change your impression when you walk into a hospital and you see a floor that looks like chicken pox with hand sanitizer spread across the floor. So with our product, it's resistant to the hand sanitizer, so you don't have to deal with that kind of issue. So we're very unique in our programs with our disinfectants and coatings, and then we also have the technology angle of the business, which is the C. diff detector with the software that goes with it, with the program that goes with it. We deal with little, you ever see in the airports those smiley faces and unhappy faces
Oh
that you
yeah,
walk in out of the
yeah, yeah.
bathroom? So we put them in patient rooms and we put them in the public restrooms. So talking about a urine spill in the bathroom, what we'll do is we put a people counter on top of the bathroom. The company's called Feedback Now that we're partners with. And it'll count how many people going in and out of the bathroom. And they'll have those smiley faces and unhappy face in the bathroom. And when you see, let's say, 100 people went into the bathroom, and you start seeing unhappy faces being pressed. The more you go in there to find out what's going on, is there a dead body there, or is there just a urine spill? But once you find that out, you'll start seeing a trend. By 100 people on Monday morning, you're getting unhappy faces, so it'll alert you when 50 people have visited the bathroom. So you can get in there up to 50, so you don't get to the 100. And now
You start
people are
cleaning up.
feeling better about your bathroom, and
Yeah,
your scores go up. And and you don't have to assign labor to keep on going into that bathroom every 2 minutes to check it. Now you can have that person being alerted when 50 people go in. So that kind of technology that we're doing. We have also tracking technology that will track where people go. So, for example, it picks up cell phone signatures. And so if you have 1,000 people coming into your hospital, where are those 1,000 people going? We can give you a report of where every single person that came in today into your hospital, where they went. 50% went down one hallway, 30% went down another hallway. So now you can focus on what areas to clean or spend more time cleaning based on traffic patterns.
janitorial stuff has come a long way because I mean, everything you're talking about right now, I'm like, seriously? Like,
It's
who would have
crazy.
ever thought any of that stuff? Like, I mean, you're
Yeah,
just like the guy who's just like, all right, we're just gonna start cleaning and mopping and whatever,
right.
Oh, there's dirt over there. Let's just clean that over there.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're doing this across the board, and this is where we're different than the commodity guys. We're really focusing on the technology end of it to make things better. I think that's where you can make good living, but also make a real impact on the industry. And that's why the big guys don't want it's a selling process that we got to do. You got to go in there, you got to show, and you got to demonstrate, and you got to show the value added. And we're very big on the training, so we have trainers that go in and educate because of the technology end of it. It's a little bit more complex than just popping a paper towel into a dispenser or changing a garbage bag. This is more complex. You need to educate the frontline staff, the housekeeping department. You have to educate the top management of what you're trying to do. It's a much
Yeah.
more difficult selling process, but
But
it's
that's where the cost
fun.
effectiveness comes in too, though, because of the technology of what you guys are doing. As crazy as it sounds, that you could tell 50 people have gone in their bathroom. You may want to send somebody in just to go ahead and wipe down everything and clean it again, make sure it's clean. I mean, who would have thought about that? I mean,
Yeah,
that's not something I ever would have thought of. I mean, been like what you're going to, like, hey, every 10 minutes, go in there and clean. And you're sending people in constantly to that one area just to clean because it's like you want it clean. If you care about stuff like that, which you would
well,
hope that everybody
I'll
does.
give you a good one. So here's something that someone taught me, one of my customers. So we came out with a device, it's a laser that we put in your garbage cans, and it'll tell you when your garbage can is half full, quarter full, completely full. And we also do this in paper towel dispensers. So I thought that you'd want to put these into the high volume cans, right? Like if you have a garbage can that continuously fills up, you want to put these lasers in there so you can know before the garbage can overflows that you get in there, you take out the garbage bag. Again, you don't have to have the guy going in there and standing by the garbage can in case it overflows. Now you're going to get an alert. So I thought that would be the market for this, but it turns out that a lot of my directors that I deal with want these devices in the low volume garbage cans. We're talking about costs, right? We're talking about how do I save on garbage bags? I can save you 10% on cost, or think about this. This I thought was pretty cool. If you watch, even in airports, if you watch anywhere, the housekeeper comes into the garbage can, looks, sees that the garbage bag has 4 or 5 paper towels in it, and changes it. Why? Because he doesn't know when he's going to get back there again, and he doesn't want to get yelled at that his shift or his garbage can was never changed, and now it's overflowing. So he
Mhm.
wants to always change a garbage bag. So now you're throwing out garbage bags that may be a quarter full, 10% full, 20% full. and you're going through a hell of a lot more garbage bags. So if you're green, environmentally friendly, or you're just cost conscious, there's a lot of waste in garbage bags. So if you take those low volume garbage cans, you put these devices in there. Number one, the guy doesn't even go there until he gets alerted. Now, when he does go there, you can set it up where it's 80% full. Now you just save probably, in some cases, 30, 40, 50% of your garbage bag usage by just having a laser. And you pay the same price.
And it pays for itself, I'm sure, after time. And yeah, like
Yeah.
you're saying, I mean,
Oh,
as stupid as
it's
it
very
gets, but garbage
inexpensive.
bags aren't
Yeah,
cheap. Yeah.
yeah. It's very
Especially in a
inexpensive
big office
technology.
building or a hospital or whatever. I mean, you're constantly in and out every day, and who knows how many times they're changing out those
Exactly.
bags. Yeah, because it's my shift. I got to clean and I got to dump everything out.
Right. I don't want to be blamed and yelled at. Exactly right. Exactly
Yeah.
right. So there's all this, sophistication that's coming out of our industry, which is pretty crazy. We had a device that, you ever see these scrubbers? They look like Zambonis. They go down the hallway that are cleaning.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we put a device on that where you need to click in your ID number before you turn on the machine. The machine won't go on unless you put your ID number in. Now, once you do that, we know the housekeeper that took that machine. It keeps track of where he's scrubbing and cleaning throughout the day. So we know where he cleaned and so on. And if something goes wrong in the machine, he can report it so that the repair company can know what the model, serial number of the machine, and they can get in there and fix it without trying to figure out, what's wrong with it. I'll know already just from the user. So we one time had a machine, 11 o'clock at night. We came in the next morning and we were watching where the machine went. Went out of the hospital, across the street into a public school, disappeared there for 2 or 3 hours scrubbing, came back into the hospital. Turns out this guy for 10 years had a side job across the street in the public school. You check in, take the machine, go across the street. Then we put this technology in, we ruined the whole game. So
Oh my God. I mean, you can't hate him for a side hustle,
there you go.
although it was on the hospital dime and the hospital equipment.
Exactly. Well, there's a cost savings that's much more valuable than a paper towel, right? It's 2 hours a day, 7 days or 5 days a week, whatever it is he's working. With that
Oh my God.
machine, that should be cleaning the hospital. So there's efficiencies and cost savings right there.
So what made you guys go from, because I think prior to, weren't you guys more like what you were talking about, just the regular janitorial, we're sell you certain stuff,
No, I
to
actually,
flip to technology?
yeah, no, I started off as a surgical supply. We used to be called a surgical supply, and I was bringing in tanks and gowns and surgical instruments into the OR. We would sell alcohol preps. There's a company, I don't know if it's still around, called Kendall. I remember the alcohol prep is called 6818, which is those little preps that you rub your hand with. We used to sell that, gauze, bandages. We were really heavily into surgical. And in fact, I used to sell the early arthroscopic and laparoscopic instruments. I used to go into the OR and I used to show surgeons my different blades and different scissors and different things that we used in the procedure to do laparoscopic and arthroscopic.
Okay, so
The
how do you
packs
go from that
gowns.
to where you are now? Because that's like not
Yeah,
even, I mean,
so
it's in the field, but it's not even close.
yeah. I mean, it was a high volume, millions and millions of dollars we sold, but there was no profit margins. The big companies in those days, the Baxters, the Owens and Miners, the Caldors, I don't know if they're still around, if they were bought out, Medline. These guys they were multi-billion-dollar companies years ago, and now even bigger. And they sold pharmaceuticals too, and they were just brutal. They would sign contracts with hospitals where they offered them volume discounts that we could never even get close to doing because we didn't even have that kind of volume. So we were going at low margins to the point where if you put the money in the bank, you made more money than having a business. And you would have the overhead, the whole 9 yards. By the time you count what you're left with, there's not much. And so one day I tripped over a mop stick coming out of the OR and became friendly with, it was Beth Israel Medical Center, New York City. Became friendly with the housekeeper, who introduced me to supervisor, who ended up becoming a director. And I started to customize, with my background in chemistry, decided to customize chemicals that would take care of the needs of the ES department. It was a side business in the beginning, and it started to grow, and we realized that there was a real market that was not being filled, in the sense that everyone was selling floor finish, but no one was selling floor finish that a housekeeping director had a need for. Meaning, so I'll give you an example. The first finish I created for this guy, was a product that smelled like bubblegum, because he complained. It sounds crazy.
Oh,
He complained that when they would put these coatings down, they were heavily ammonia based, and they would smell the entire hallway. People get dizzy, patients would complain, and
oh wow.
because they're putting these coatings down. So he said to me, "It's my biggest problem is smell." And I went back to the drawing board, and I realized in those days there was really not much that we could do, because ammonia was the carrying agent that we would put into the coatings. Basically, the ammonia would lift off and leave the solids behind. That's what kept it liquefied. And so what I figured out is to try to mix it with a deodorizer or a scent. And all scents, when I put into the floor finish, broke down within 5-10 minutes. The ammonia would break down the scent. The only scent that was able to last was the bubblegum scent. And well, I
Can
came
you imagine
in,
walking into a hospital smelling like bubblegum? What
it was hilarious. I mean, it was so funny, because the nursing would start to go to the EVS guys and go, "Can you bring some of that bubblegum deodorizer up here on the floor? We want to make it smell nice again." Because what I discovered was, not only did the floor finish smell like bubblegum, they loved it, but it would linger behind for 6 months after it was put down. You'd always smell that light bubblegum smell in
like
the air.
bubblegum?
So it was a real hit. A really unique feature. It was like any other floor finish, except it had that bubblegum scent, but it solved the problem. And that was when I learned that products I need to sell are products that are really going to change the way we do things, and not necessarily compete on price, but compete on cost and what would be beneficial for
Right.
the department. That's really went from there. One other lesson I learned is one other lesson.
Okay.
And I was selling hand soap in the surgical days, hand sanitizer and hand soap. It was very competitive. It was, all price oriented. 23, 24 years old.
It's
And
only 10 years ago, 12 years ago.
4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. It was very recent. We should have this call every day, by the way, before I go to work. It's like, yeah. So, I remember I went into purchasing. That's what I used to deal with: purchasing in the OR and the surgical and the med surg department. And I walked into the purchasing guy, and the purchasing guy was very friendly. Was said to me, "Alex, let me introduce you to somebody." And he just was this young guy my age, and I go, "Oh, what do you do?" He goes, "Oh, I sell specialty stuff." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, I sell like soap, like you sell, but I sell a foam soap to the OR. And it has in it, CHG, chlorhexidine, glutamate, has very unique things, and it's foam. And in those days, no one had foam, so everything was liquid. And he was one of the first early introducers of the healthcare market of foam. And I said, "Oh wow, how much do you charge a case?" Now I was charging around $30 a case in those days, making very little money on it. And he says, "Oh, for the case I got, it's 4, mine was 12. I charge $180 a case." What? $180 a case? And I said, can we do lunch? I'll treat. And I took him out to the cafeteria. How the hell you sell? I'm selling $30 a case for the whole hospital. He goes, "Well, I do less volume, Alex. I'm always selling to the OR, but they buy a lot of soap." And I basically created a soap for them. They don't want liquid because it made a mess. They wanted foam. I put CHG in there. I made the soap just for them. And even though the volume's not there, but the dollars are there. Those I made 50, 60% margin on these products. I go, whoa. And it clicked in my head at that moment that the way to make money is not to necessarily be a Me Too guy. but it's to be an innovator, to reinvent the way, you do business, and to really become a partner with your customer, not to try to be another supplier, to sort of say to the customer, what is it you need, and we'll make it for you. So that's really, the motto of our business.
Wow, I'll tell you what, you've actually opened my eyes up to like what my perception of janitorial stuff was. 'Cause, I mean, you're not. I can't even call you like a janitor company. I mean, you guys are
Right.
way beyond that, like by leaps and bounds, which is awesome. I mean, I love the fact that, especially the stuff that the video that we're going to put on here to show like the luminol, like I'm going to call it luminol, but the stuff that
Right. Right.
people can see, like if there's germs and stuff. I mean, that's not stuff that a normal company, any Janiking or something like that is going to be able to do.
Right.
You
Right.
guys are way above all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And you know what is, it's also taking technology like this live technology, which is the identification of the bacteria. It's great, but you gotta blend it. You gotta combine everything together. It's almost like, uh, I love eggs, but if you take the egg with the right flour and the right sugar and the right ingredients, you can have a great cake.
Yeah.
So same thing in our industry. You may have this is great by itself, but it could be really incredible if we can combine it together into a program, into a system that really brings value to the hospital.
I would agree. I hope more hospitals actually do bring that product in and whatever else you got going, because it's awesome. I mean, I saw some of the
Thank you.
videos that you posted on your website. I mean, it's like crazy. I'm just like, wow. And I never thought I'd be fascinated by janitorial stuff, but I was just like, holy shit, this isn't like your five and dime, Janet King going in and just mopping and whatever. This is like next level stuff. That's why I wanted to talk to you, because it was like something completely different than what I was ever in my own mind. And I hope, whoever's listening and watching kind of opens their mind to the next time they see somebody in the hospital cleaning and doing things, going, hey, this guy's really, doing a service. It's not just cleaning up piss and, whatever's been left. I mean, there's a lot to it to help try to keep everybody healthy who goes into the hospital, and for the employees that they're healthy and, constantly they're there 8, 12, 14 hours a day, that they stay healthy and don't bring home something and then it's the shitstorm.
Yeah, and by the way, that note, Gus, it's important. I think it's very important to all of us when we go into a hospital and we go there as a patient or we go there as a visitor. When you see the housekeeper who's mopping the floor, or you see the supervisor of the housekeeping guy, that you acknowledge him, because people don't realize that they're even there. They just focusing on the nurse and the doctor. They play such a critical role, and they're the silent, warriors that are really protecting everyone there. And I always make it a job when I walk into a hospital. I always say good morning, thank you for what you're doing. It's we really appreciate keeping this room clean or clean the hallway. I'm always very, very thankful, and it's very important because it helps them. It's a reinforcement for them to continue doing the right job. Yeah,
they're a part of the hospital, and they are
right.
a key process. Besides the
Right.
doctors and nurses and everybody else and whatever. But I mean, they keep the hospital going and clean. I mean, that's really at the end of the
100%.
day. Without them, we wouldn't be going to hospital ever.
Exactly. Never. Exactly. And they would be closed down. They wouldn't even be in operation without them.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I really appreciate your time, Alex. This has been enlightening, and I love it. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gus. It was great meeting you again. And maybe we'll do this again. And if I have some new technology, I'll let you know. We'll introduce it through your show.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're in town in August, let me know.
I will.
Cocktails and dinner. We'll see.
It sounds great, Gus. I appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it.
The opportunity.
Take care.
Take care.
All righty.
Take care. Thank you very much, Gus.
Hey guys, I hope you liked this interview. I really found out a lot of information as far as hospitals go, and actually the people that actually provide the cleaning in the hospitals. I mean, if you see somebody, like he said earlier on the Zoom, that if you do see someone who's cleaning the hallways, just say thank you, because you know what, they are an integral part of the hospital and making sure that all employees and anybody who goes into a hospital stays healthy and comes out healthy. If you like the podcast, please do me a favor, like and subscribe, and remember, as always, all facts, no fluff. See you guys.